Hello there, and welcome to the channel. Another Saturday has come and gone, and I'm on an interview episode without an interview. So, just as a little bit of explanation before I get into today's John stories, I have come to this point where I'm struggling to decide how I'm going to deal with the Saturday stuff because I wanted to do interviews, but when I ask people, a number of them now that I thought of as really close friends have said no to being interviewed. And each time that happens, I lose a little bit more confidence. I back away a little bit, and so I don't know what's going to happen with the Saturday episodes. No telling. But today I want to tell 3 John stories. They're going to be fairly brief. But they have to do with how John became a good brother to his only sister. So, there were times when John and I didn't get along. That I think that's true for all siblings. There are times that you don't get along with your siblings, and that's natural and it's to be expected. But if you're very lucky, you learn to forgive each other and you grow back together as you grow older and become more supportive of each other and more valuable to each other. And therefore, when you lose each other, it's really, really devastating. So, John knew I liked acting, but he really never attended any of my shows because he had graduated from high school long before I got to high school. And so I was in college, I was in a number of shows, and then I got cast as Buttercup in HMS Pinafore, which is a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. And it was it was a lot of fun. Buttercup's a very weird character. If you look up the operetta, she's a strange character. So of course I got cast as her. But it was a lot of fun. And it was one of the very few times that I have been absolutely the center of a show. So John decided to come down and see the show. It was going to be on for 2 weeks, 2 weekend times. And he came down one weekend and watched it, and he so enjoyed it that the next weekend he brought his dear friend Patty English with him to see the show. For me, that was one of the greatest compliments he ever gave me, was wanting to see the show more than once. It meant that he really saw that what I was doing was worthwhile and fun and entertaining, and that's what we were going for in the show, was fun and worthwhile and entertaining. So that's number 1, just that supportive move. A second thing he did was sort of patience his way through one of my epic breakdowns. When I was a fairly young teacher, I was teaching in Deming, and Mother decided, after Daddy passed away, Mother decided that she would go down and visit our friend Patty English, who lives in Chile in South America. And she decided that she would do this visit over Christmas. Now, I didn't think anything of this at the time. We like to celebrate Christmas, but we're mature people. We're grown-ups. It didn't seem like it was a big deal for Mother to be down there for Christmas. So that meant that I would be making the food for the Christmas meal there in Deming at her house. And after she had gone, I decided to make this pie. And in the process of making this pie, I realized that for all my life, my mother had made pie crusts for me when I made pie. I did the fillings, she did the crusts. So I had never done my own pie crust. And I didn't know how to do it. And this was long before people could Google, how do you make pie crust? You know, I had recipe books, but any of you who make pie crust know that it's much better to have a teacher showing you, demonstrating to you how to do a pie crust. So I tried 3 times, failed 3 times, and was sitting in the kitchen on the floor crying when John came around the corner and said, "What is going on?" And I said, "I can't make a pie crust. I can't." He said, "Wait, what? You're crying because of a pie crust?" "I've tried 3 times, I can't make a pie crust." Okay, so he encouraged me to not be so upset and not to worry about it. It wasn't that important. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we didn't have a pie at Christmas. I don't remember if I ever managed to get a pie made that Christmas. I did, however, learn to, make pie crust. I can make an awesome pie crust now, but that was a very difficult Christmas. And I think it was partly because I was really missing Mother. The last story I want to tell you is how my dear brother, by the time this story took place, we really were friends. I was going to be going to Warren Wilson College. I'd been accepted to Warren Wilson for their MFA program in creative writing. And of course, I was joyous beyond belief. And I was going to be starting the program in the winter, which isn't typical, but there was a lot of complicated material about that. But so I had to fly out in the winter to Swannanoa, North Carolina. Well, I flew into, I can't remember what airport, but anyway, it may be in Atlanta, and I rented a car, I don't know. Anyway, he was going to take me to the airport. The plane was going to leave from Albuquerque. And this terrible snowstorm had hit over the Christmas holidays. And so he and I were going to drive to Albuquerque, and he figured out that the better way to go, rather than through Vaughn, was through the Lincoln Highway, which is, you go toward Ruidoso and you drive up through that valley. And it's a hometown valley for us, so it was kind of an interesting trip. Anyway, on the way up we talked, and I think it was one of the first times that we really revealed things about our lives that McCollums don't typically reveal to family, like things about our romantic history and things like that. And so we got to Albuquerque, and he told me, "I'll take you to the airport in the morning," and all that. And I had trouble sleeping, and when I woke up, I thought I had slept too late, and I went in to John and I said, "We have to be at the airport in half an hour." And John was like, "What?" And so we threw everything in the truck and we roared down to the airport. And I mean, if you've ever been to the Albuquerque airport, there's a lot of road to get to the airport. And we're driving into the airport at just incredibly high speed. And this cop sees John, and rather than stopping him, he just goes, like, "Calm down." So John drops me off at the departures gate, and he says, "Well, I'll come in, but I understand if you have to go to your gate, just go to your gate, don't worry about it." And so he went and parked the car. I get in and I said, I need to get on the plane leaving at 6:30. And they said 7:30. And I said 6:30. And they said, "No plane leaves today until 7:30. And I went, "Oh." So when John came in, I said, "Ha, ha, ha, ha." And he's like, "Ugh." "Eva." But he didn't cuss me, and he wasn't really mad. He was glad that I had made it, and he was glad that he hadn't got a ticket, and he was glad that we'd had the trip. And he sent me to one of the great experiences of my life, Warren Wilson College. Those residencies there that I did there were so amazing. They were so delightful. And John supported me all the way. I mean, all the way. When I graduated, it was John and Mother that came to the graduation and cheered me on. And I got to read at the graduation. you know, it's a small college and it's a small program, and at the graduation, I was one of the selected readers. So, you know, John was really someone who gave me courage and gave me encouragement. And I think that's one of the greatest things a teacher can do for a sibling, a friend, or a student. So I hope you get the opportunity to give somebody encouragement someday soon. That's it for today. I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.